No sooner had Zelensky tried to demonstrate that he is not a pawn in the hands of the US than he was immediately slapped down. On the 9th of November, an interview with the Ukrainian dictator for hire was published in the British newspaper, The Guardian. Zelensky insolently stated that everyone in the world is afraid of Trump, but he supposedly is not. And then he immediately added, "No, we are not enemies of America. We are friends. So why should we be afraid?" Coincidence or not, already on the 10th of November, Ukrainian anti-corruption agencies announced a large-scale special operation that directly affects Zelensky's people. It is worth reminding immediately that the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine is a structure not controlled by the Ukrainian authorities. It is appointed from the outside. A recent attempt by Zelensky to subjugate these auditors and detectives ended in a humiliating failure. Therefore, everything that is happening should be viewed not as a fight against corruption in Ukraine, but exclusively as the manipulation of puppets in the Kyiv theater of the absurd. In the photos published on the 10th of November, everything is as it should be. Money in bags and in stacks. Moreover, the images show that the stacks are unopened, with bank seals, just as they were packaged in the American cities of Minneapolis, Kansas City, and Atlanta. So they were seized in Kyiv. No one even had time to spend them. A direct channel for the transit of corrupt American money and an illustration of their fate in Ukraine. As Ukrainian sources write, Zelensky, through his team, was engaged in what was essentially a shakedown. All contracts in the country's energy sector were subject to a tribute of 10 to 15% of the value. In absolute terms, it looks something like this. With the revenue of the Ukrainian Energoatom at around $5 billion, the illegal corrupt income of the top echelon of the Kyiv regime amounted to about $500 million. I will emphasize once again, we are talking about the sphere of Ukrainian energy, which is now on the verge of collapse, and where Zelensky demands that Western sponsors pour in more and more new money, complaining about the strikes of the Russian army, and money was given to him. An important detail, in the published wiretap files, there is a voice that the interlocutors called Carlson, to make it somewhat anonymous. But Ukrainians recognized it as the voice of Timur Mindich, who managed Zelensky's money even during the time of the 95 quarter. He has now fled the country. Remember Koschai, the deathless. His life was in an egg. In the egg was a needle. Well, Zelensky's life is money. War, power, the death of people, the destruction of the country, all for money. The money is managed by Mindich. Mindich is the death of Koschai, that is, of Zelensky. This is how former Ukrainian People's Deputy Oleg Tsaryov figuratively put it. Well, and now it is necessary to generalize this. Essentially local Ukrainian picture of the embezzlement of sponsor money to the global world context. No one would be interested in how much money Zelensky and his team stole from whom, if Ukraine under his leadership were not waging aggression against Russia with Western money. But since that is the case, the question takes a completely different turn. The Russian Minister of Foreign Affairs on the 9th of November reminded us that the Americans, after all, were planning to put pressure on Zelensky for the purpose of ending the conflict. I will quote, "We also took into account the proposals that, shortly before the summit, were conveyed to us by the U.S. President's Special Representative, Stephen Witkow. At that time, the Americans assured us that they would be able to ensure that Zelensky would not hinder the achievement of peace. Apparently," Lavrov says, "certain difficulties have arisen on this issue, and it is quite likely that the episode with corruption in Zelensky's inner circle is precisely the stick with which Zelensky will be forced to sit down at the negotiating table, or whoever replaces him."